what is your take on whether Hobbes is real or not? I'll give you a Watterson quote from one of the collections. He said, "I don't think of Hobbes as a doll that miraculously comes to life when Calvin's around. Neither do I think of Hobbes as the product of Calvin's imagination. Calvin sees Hobbes one way and everyone else sees Hobbes another way. I show two versions of reality and each makes complete sense to the participant who sees it." But what does that do for us, the readers? Like, is it, did you ever in your head be like, well, here's what's going on. It's just Calvin's imagination.
I don't know that I ever made any kind of like formalized, like dogmatic distinction about what was happening. Like I think that quote sums it up perfectly, and it's kind of hard to argue with, obviously we have been debating like authorial intent and like how truthful or consistent he's being about this stuff given how cagey he is. But I think that's right. It's not Toy Story where he comes to
Right.
life when your
I
back
was
is
just going to bring
turned.
that up. Right.
Like
Right.
there are
Toy Story.
strips where
Toy Story. There's Toy Story, like to use like from sci-fi. Like it has a firm sense of the system of magic that is involved in Toy Story, and there are rules and boundaries that are set down.
Right, right. I mean, all that matters for the stories and the jokes to work is that Hobbes is real to Calvin. And you see Hobbes as a stuffed animal interacting with Calvin's parents all the time. Like, he'll get lost in the woods or something, and you'll see his mom talking to the stuffed Hobbes doll. And it does not, spring to life and have a private conversation with her. It's just her kid's stuffed animal. All that matters is that Calvin sees him as a friend and that they go on adventures together. And the relationship that Calvin is projecting onto him makes him real so that we can experience these adventures from his point of view.
Well, and this is again, I think the key to the whole art here is this bringing the interior world of a child's imagination into the real world and kind of not, because like putting aside even Hobbes, like all of the Spaceman Spiff or other like fantasy strips where he's going off and fighting dinosaurs and things like that, and then the gag at the end will be like, he's wrestling under his blankets in bed and his dad is like, what's going on in here or something like that. But again, like that's sort of the real magic that Watterson tapped into, was this sense that we all intuitively have a memory of, maybe even if it's faint, the idea that there was a time when fantasy didn't necessarily have firm boundaries with reality. It kind of blended together.
Yeah, I think that something we keep coming back to in many facets is that Calvin and Hobbes is really successful in identifying what it feels like to be a child. Not just in the sort of like, oh, I'm smarter and more sophisticated and maybe sadder than adults think I am, but also like, I'm more playful, I live in a more pliable reality, things can change from moments to moments. Peanuts really does feel like kids articulating what it feels like to be adults, and Calvin and Hobbes feels like a kid who is authentically a kid, but sometimes uses the language of adults.